Hey guys, All Sports 83 back with another edition of XFL Casual, and in this video we're going to do our second part to this two-part series where I'm previewing each team and making some predictions about how I think their season's going to play out, including what I think each team's best predicted rivalry is going to be. In the last video we covered the XFL North Division, and so now we're going to cover the South Division in part 2. Let's not waste any time and get right into it. Kicking things off are the Arlington Renegades, and I felt like the Renegades were one of the more popular teams back in the XFL for 2020, and I think that that's going to be the case again here in XFL 2.5. Having the league's base of operations in Arlington, where the Renegades call home, is a nice boost which helps get fans acquainted with the league and then stick around to support their home team. The other side of that coin is that due to the advantage, the Renegades may be the team that other XFL fan bases love to hate. Adding to that is a familiar face to coach the Renegades in Bob Stoops. We all know his college success, but my memory also tells me that he was getting a pretty good handle of things in 2020 with this team. So I think there's little doubt that the Renegades have the right guy holding the clipboard in Arlington. As for players, I want to start with a guy I'd like to see get a shot at QB, and that is Drew Plitt. I don't really want to throw numbers at you so much as to say that Plitt's time at Ball State was very consistent. It's impressive considering that the team itself was really up and down during his time there. Missing the cut with the Bengals in 2022 may be a win for the XFL. Again, I'm not sure if he'll get the job, but I just have a feeling that he would really do a good job at leading an XFL team. I do think we'll see a good bit of running back Keith Ford. After a decent college career where he averaged 4.9 yards per carry and around 10 touchdowns a season, he saw some time on a roster with the Bills, Colts, and Packers, but he just didn't see a lot of playing time. Ford then played for the Battlehawks in 2020 and now makes his return to the XFL with the Renegades. As for wide receiver, Jordan Smallwood should be a familiar name to XFL fans from 2020. He seemed like one of the few bright spots for a struggling LA Wildcats team with almost 4 catches per game and an average of 13 yards per catch. So he may be a good target for the quarterback in Arlington, and I would think his production could go up from 2020 because this is a team that looks a little more complete than that Wildcat team from 2020. As for my best predicted rivalry, it's really a no-brainer in my opinion, and it's the Houston Roughnecks. A battle of Texas pride that comes from the XFL from 2020 already gives us a sampling size. The Roughnecks win that game in Week 4 in 2020 with a final score of 27-20. Hopefully it won't matter who the players are. I would remind the team of that score when they meet up with Houston for the first time on February 26th this season. This just feels like a tremendous rivalry for the XFL. At the end of the year, I have the Renegades with a 6-4 record and just getting into the playoffs. For me, it's a decent roster and a seasoned coach that puts them in the postseason and possibly in the hunt for a championship. I do think this is another team to have a nice fan following and could be among the best attended home games. And having a crowd loud at home is an advantage, so I look for the Renegades to be a pretty successful team in 2023. Next up is the Orlando Guardians, and having been labeled by most as the team with the most work to do if they want to compete in 2023, without too much detail, the general consensus is the roster is just a little more limited than the other teams, and head coach Terrell Buckley is unproven as a coach. Add to the mix that Buckley is a defensive coach when American football is offense-driven, and Orlando has its doubters. However, this is all just guesswork. No one really knows who the Guardians are, what schemes they will play, or what chemistry they can develop in the upcoming season. So, by year's end, everyone could be singing a different tune. It does seem, on paper at least, that many starting spots are up for grabs in Orlando, including the quarterback position. While some believe it will be DeAndre Francois, I'm going to highlight Quentin Dormady here. With a career college completion rate of 61%, Dormady would need to improve those numbers to help get the Guardians to victory. Also, with a career 21 TDs and 14 interceptions in college, it's not an ideal ratio. So Dormady wants to land the starting gig. He's going to have to look a little better than this than his stat sheet. But I am highlighting him because he has shown bright spots throughout his college career. So if Dormady can capitalize on those moments, he may prove all the doubters wrong and would look pretty good moving forward. Running back Kelvin Taylor, on the other hand, could be a key piece of Orlando's running attack. After a successful junior year at Florida, where he rushed for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns, Taylor bounced around several NFL teams, just missing the cut. So you might say that the XFL was tailor-made for Kelvin Taylor. Yes, I know it sounds bad, but I did it anyway. I'll be honest, I know even less about the receiving corps for the Guardians, but I do like the tangibles of wideout Dantes Bird. He seems like a stocky but quick player who could work in the slot, creating matchup issues for opposing defenses. He also has the ability to get behind the defense with his speed, making the big play a real threat when he's on the field. So, prediction time for the Orlando Guardians, and for some reason I see their biggest rival being the San Antonio Brahmas. The Guardians may be the only team in the division that's not in the state of Texas, but both teams are new looks for the XFL. And given that the other two Texas teams have a small history of playing one another in 2020, it seems like the best logical choice for a rivalry to be born is between these two teams, the Guardians and the Brahmas. Now, predicting the 2023 season seems a bit easier based on popular opinion. The entire world may be wrong about the Guardians by season's end, and if so, I'll be wrong alongside of them. I have the Guardians finishing in last place in the South Division with a disappointing record of 3-7. Next up is the Houston Roughnecks. Now, there's no question that the most electrifying team for the XFL in 2020 were the Houston Roughnecks. The crowds were behind their undefeated team and things were rolling. So it's no surprise that the Roughnecks are back in 2023 seeking to pick up where they left off. I see no reason to doubt that fan interest won't return for Houston, and the season is going to be very interesting. And with Wade Phillips, who has a career's worth of NFL coaching experience, I don't think anyone's sleeping on the Roughnecks this year. Phillips may be the difference for Houston, and I look for them to compete in having the best defense in the league because of him alone. As for players, we don't know who the starting QB is going to be yet, but I'd like to see Caleb Ellaby get a chance. He may be on the young side, but I see potential in the Western Michigan standout. With a 64% pass completion rate and a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio throughout his career, there's a lot to like about Ellaby, including some dual threat mobility. The only thing I'm concerned about is that with all his coaching experience, Wade Phillips is a defensive coach. But Ellaby could lean on the offensive coaching staff Phillips has put in place, and things could work out just fine if he gets a chance. At running back, Adrian Killens is who I have my eye on for the Roughnecks this year. Killens' quickness could help the backfield and the special teams return game for Houston. I look for him to get his opportunities and make the most of them quickly in 2023. Deontay Burnett is a wide receiver that I have my eye on. He definitely has the build to be a scary slot receiver, and while at USC, he had sure hands and a knack for making the big catch. He sniffed out his share of touchdowns as well, having 16 in his last 2 seasons in college, and that's when he had his most significant playing time. Burnett is another player that's kind of made for the XFL, just missing the cut with several NFL teams, and he is looking for a real opportunity to show what he can do, and I hope we all see it this season. As you already know, the Arlington Renegades are my pick for the big rival to the Roughnecks. And in all honesty, this has the potential of being the best rivalry in the XFL period, and it could help the league. If I were someone with any kind of say, I might invest in some sort of trophy that the winning team keeps until the next meeting. For now, I'll just cultivate these rivalries on my little channel here, but Arlington and Houston just looks like a top-notch rivalry for me. So, how do the Roughnecks finish out the season? Well, I have them finishing 3rd in the division with a 5-5 record. I know that's an odd prediction because I like this roster. The problem is, I think there are two other teams that are just a little bit better. Of course, this is all just a bunch of guesswork, and nobody's really done anything on the field yet, so I could get these predictions completely wrong. And the Roughnecks are a team that I could have very wrong by season's end. Last but not least is the team that seems like it's been designed by Dwayne Johnson himself, the San Antonio Brahmas. Likely born from the Brahma tattoo from the co-owner of the league, it seems this team has the right amount of hype. Everything from getting a great sports city in San Antonio to some of the more popular logos and uniforms in the league. I think this fresh new team could start on a high note for 2023 as well. Starting with head coach Hines Ward, he has a ton of pro football knowledge and rounds out a promising head coaching lineup for the XFL. He also has an offensive mind, which I prefer in a head coach. I certainly feel that he can develop wide receivers, so that's a big plus as well. Maybe the most unknown thing about the Brahmas is the quarterback position, so I'm going to highlight quarterback Jack Cohen, the former Wisconsin and Notre Dame alum. His one season at Notre Dame, he has a stat sheet that is worthy of taking note, throwing for over 3,000 yards and a 65% completion rate. Cohen went undrafted in the 2022 draft, so I'm sure he's hungry to show everyone that he is the real deal. I think the running backs room has a lot more depth for San Antonio than most teams, and the guy I think will lead the way is Kalen Ballage. He averaged over 4 yards per carry at Arizona State and scored 27 career touchdowns before being drafted in the 4th round of the 2018 NFL Draft by the Dolphins. His trajectory, unfortunately, was sidelined with an injury in year 2, and he really just never found his way back. So we'll see if Ballage can get back on track with the Brahmas. I have a feeling that he'll get the job done pretty well. As for wide receiver, TJ Vasher is a guy that I want to see. He feels like another guy who could have a long career in spring football, which again, I've said before, isn't a bad way to make a living. The best thing about Vasher is his 6'6" figure, making him a real threat down the field and in the red zone. I'm sure others will focus on a guy like Fred Brown, who has a better resume. It's just that I want to see Vasher get a chance on the field. I feel that the Brahmas could have a collection of rivals, but keeping the in-division approach, I'm going to stick with that Orlando Guardians matchup I mentioned earlier. It may take a little while for this rivalry to grow legs if the Guardians are as limited as most people think, but I still think this could happen over the long haul. Well, I'm rooting for it anyway. For the final prediction, I think the Brahmas may have the best overall roster in the league, and it's going to pay off. I have them winning the South Division with an 8-2 record. Yes, that's right, the best record in the league. I think the Alamo Dome will have plenty of noise, and the advantage will help them have an undefeated record at home. And so there you have it, guys. That is my prediction for the XFL South Division, and hope you guys enjoyed that. But of course, this is just my opinion, and I always look forward to seeing what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Let me know where you think I'm right, where you think I'm wrong. Give me your thoughts. What are your predictions? What do you think the best rivalries are going to be? Anyway, I look forward to see what you have, and until next time, have a good one.